my channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm Messy Jessie and you're watching. Messy Jessie is back. This is the version of me that's just not wearing any bow tie, just me and my sweats. We can't be fancy all the time, y'all.
It's just not realistic.
This is the video that I am super excited about because it is going to be the Blackathon 2020 tag. Now, I created daily Instagram challenges for Blackathon. From the 15th to the 21st, people are going to be posting every day on the Instagram in accordance to the prompts that I'm about to share. And I figured that it would be really fun to turn this into a YouTube tag also. Blackathon is kind of all about having challenges on Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube so that we can kind of like marry all the different parts of the book community. We tend to stay so separated and stay in our own little corners. So I've been kind of trying to challenge people to kind of branch out and connect with one another on different platforms. And Blackathon, of course, is all about connectedness and community because it's a readathon that I host with Lauren from the novel Lush, centering Black authors, Black voices, Black protagonists. I created this readathon last year and I'm definitely going to be doing it every single year that I have a channel. It brings me nothing but joy. So I really hope that you will do this tag with me. I have the 7 questions linked down below. You can totally mix and match. You can do your own thing with the questions. It really doesn't have to be that rigid or that structured. I just wanted it to be a super quick tag, something to kind of get us in front of our cameras and talking, and I think it's gonna be a super fun way to find some new channels as well. So I'm really excited to discover new channels as a result of doing this tag. And so without further ado, the first question is mirror image, a cover recreation or an homage. This basically means pick a book with a cover that you think is absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. You can simply just hold the book up and say, hey, this is the cover that I want to pay homage to. Or you can like mimic the outfit that's on the cover. You can do your makeup to match the cover. For this part of the tag, it's totally up to you. I'll just put the picture that I put up on my Instagram right here. This, of course, is inspired by the book Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams, which was one of my top reads of 2019. I absolutely loved this book from its head to its toes. It's a phenomenal British Jamaican contemporary about a very unstable young woman named Queenie who's just trying to get her life together. The rest of these questions, I'm not going to be picking books that I've already picked for my Instagram challenges just because I don't want to be repetitive. Question number 2 is Slept On, a book that no one talks about. I am absolutely choosing All Boys Aren't Blue by George Johnson. This was my first read of 2020 and it knocked my socks off. I know in my heart, in my soul, I know it the way I know my own face, that this book is going to be on my top reads of 2020. There's absolutely no way it doesn't make the list.
It's just not realistic.
This is a collection of essays from activist George Johnson about what it means to be Black and queer and gender nonconforming. It's about family, it's about coming of age, it's about Black culture, it's about friendship, it's about life, it's about everything in between. The book definitely is geared towards young Black boys, and I think that every single person in this country needs to read this book, not because it's one of those like, oh, it's super important books, but because it's good. It is important, yeah, but it's so good. You can see how heavily I've tabbed this book. If that is any indication of how deeply I love this book, I have a full review on Goodreads going into depth, analyzing this book and talking about what it means to me. And I really encourage you to read that Goodreads review if you want kind of point-by-point reasons why you need to read this. But from an emotional component, all I can say is this book hit me like a slap in the face. It was exactly what I needed. It's the best representation for non-binary identities that I've ever read in my entire life. And that really says something. I think that the author recently came out as gender nonconforming, which does not at all surprise me because like I said, as I was reading this book, I felt so connected to George, and my experience as a non-binary person and what my non-binary identity means to me is 1000% reflected in this book. And I really hope I get the chance to meet George someday. This book doesn't come out until April, and I'm not seeing hype for it, and it frustrates me because it's so freaking good. It's amazing. Like, I beg you to pre-order this book. I absolutely beg you. If you do a review of this book, if you talk about this book at a wrap-up or anything, if you just tag me in it so I can see it and boost it, because I want to see more people talking about this book. It's amazing. amazing. It's amazing. I could literally just spend an entire video reading quotes from this book and talking about how much they mean to me. I could make a dedicated video talking about this book, but there's one quote that I want to talk about, and he says, "Anytime I'm dealing with something personally, I look to see which ancestor before me already discussed it. I don't let their work dictate my every action, but I know that I am in a much better position when I am informed by their work. I use my history as a tool to fight my marginalization."
Read the damn book.
Question number 3 is call and response, a community recommendation. For this, I'm absolutely going to be picking Slay by Brittany Morris. And if you're confused about this prompt, it's basically just a book that the community really hypes and is trying to get people to read. Slay was being so heavily hyped in the Bookstagram community last year, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see it. And this book deserves every ounce of the hype that it has been getting. It is wildly and lavishly worth all of the celebration that it got last year. This made my top YA books of 2019, and it totally deserved to be on that list. It is about a 17-year-old coder named Kiara Johnson. Kiara has created a virtual reality universe called Slay, where Black gamers everywhere can escape racism in the gaming community and just join this network and duel each other without having to worry about being called the N-word or anything horrible, having to deal with the awful harassment that Black gamers have to deal with online. When a murder happens over a dispute in something that occurred in the Slay world, Slay gets exposed and people start calling it racist, and people start hunting for the creator, which of course is high school student Kiara. And so it's up to her to defend this virtual reality universe that she has created. And she also is having to have very uncomfortable conversations with her friends and with her family about Slay and about exclusionary spaces and about implicit bias and racism. And so the book is very contemporary in its issues, but it also has just a beautiful science fiction component. The world building was excellent, and I have high hopes that Slay will be an actual game someday. It was amazing. There was non-binary inclusion in the story that I personally appreciated. There was normalization of neutral pronouns. I loved the writing. It was a debut, and it just blows my mind that it was a debut because it was so freaking good. Brittany Morris can write her ass off, and I can't wait for her next book. Then we have Black Boy Joy, a lighthearted comfort read. Now, I wouldn't recommend All Boys Aren't Blue for this prompt just because it does deal with some heavy topics, but I will say that there is so much Black Boy Joy in that book. It is not all pain and suffering, not even by far. There's so much community and family. So don't be deterred by All Boys Aren't Blue. Yes, it does talk about racism and homophobia and being in the closet and gender nonconformity and some tough issues, but it's all about Black joy and Black love too. But the book that I'm formally going to be picking for this challenge is Dear Haiti, Love Elaine. And I love that this book is a contemporary novel by two sisters. It's about a young girl named Elaine who gets into some trouble at her high school, and as a punishment, she is sent to her aunt over in Haiti. And this book is told in a mixed media format. I think that there's a little bit of a romance when she goes to Haiti as well, and she's learning about her culture, her heritage, and also growing up and coming of age. And I'm going to be reading this book actually this month. My TBR cards picked it for me. I believe the card that I drew was the buddy read card. So I'm buddy reading this with two individuals, and I'm super excited for us to get started. This has been on my TBR for a long time, and the reason that this challenge is here, this read a lighthearted comfort read, is because so many of the books that are centering Black characters are just full of doom and gloom and trauma and racism. And those books are important because unfortunately that is a reality of Black life. But our life isn't just pain and suffering. We deserve joyful stories too. We deserve cute romances, cute coming of age. We deserve fantasy books where girls just save the world. A lot of people only want to see Black faces if we're suffering. A lot of people only want to read about Black people if there's a reason for it, aka slavery or some kind of trope that we are expected to fit into. A lot of people don't want to see Black characters in positions of happiness and not being oppressed and just being normalized and being celebrated alongside other characters without having a marginalization component. I think also the publishing industry believes that we don't want to see stories like this, and we totally do, and we need to prove to the publishing industry that we do by supporting these joyful light books. Another book that has a Black protagonist but isn't about Black people suffering is Fumbled by Alexa Martin. Alexa Martin writes sports romances and kind of comedies that have Black protagonists, and it's just Black people living. And that is on my TBR. I don't know if I'm gonna get to Fumbled this year, but it's been on my TBR for 2 years, and I really, really wanna freaking read it. I think Fumbled is actually the second book in her series, but whatever the first book is, I wanna read it.
I'm super excited.
Just be very intentional, whether you were Black or otherwise. Look at the books that you are reading that have Black characters and see what percentage of them are about Black people suffering. Like, you might be surprised to find that the only time you're reading Black books is when the Black character is suffering because of racism, and that is not the only way you should be seeing Black people. You should be seeing Black joy too. Question number 5 is Black girl magic, science fiction fantasy with a Black protagonist. I have a few options for this. This is like my favorite question. Y'all know I have my Black girl magic series where I just vlog my experience reading Black girls in science fiction and fantasy, and I'm going to pick a longtime favorite, which is Motor Crush, illustrated by Babs Tarr, written by Brendan Fletcher. This comic is amazing. I cannot
Wait
for volume 3, and its date got pushed back, and I'm super pissed because I've been waiting my whole life for it. And this is a science fiction comic about a young girl named Domino. I actually think Domino's like 22 years old. She is a queer Black girl. She's tough as nails, and she likes to compete in a racing competition by day, but at night she competes in dirty street racing for a motorcycle accelerant called Crush. People use Crush, of course, to make their motorcycles faster, and we find out very early on in the book that Domino is using it as a enhancement substance for her body. And so we find out that Domino isn't quite human, and she's kind of trying to figure out what that means. She's got girlfriend problems. The writing is gorgeous. The story is phenomenal. I absolutely love the art. Babs Tarr can draw her ass off. She's amazing. I highly recommend this comic, and you definitely have enough time to get caught up before the new one drops. Another comic that I've loved and I have been talking about since the day I started my channel is Superb, originally by David F. Walker and Sheena Howard, although I don't think Sheena is writing this comic with David anymore. David F. Walker is a Black graphic novel comic book writer, and I named one of the challenges for Blackathon after him in his honor. I absolutely love him and his work. He is brilliant, and Superb is just such an underrated comic book about two characters. One is Kayla, who is a Black girl that has super strength, and her best friend Jonah, who has all sorts of powers, and Jonah is a white boy with Down syndrome. And I love the way that Jonah's Down syndrome is handled in the comic. It's mentioned a few times, but it's not made a plot point. It's just a part of his character, and it's not made a big deal. Just as Kayla's Blackness isn't made a big deal. You can obviously see it, but her life is not about racism or struggle. She's just a Black girl fighting crime, and she so happens to be Black. This comic book is amazing and criminally underrated, and I've been telling y'all to read it since I started this channel.
But y'all ain't listening.
But that's okay. Then another science fiction book that I highly recommend is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. I just read this in my latest Black Girl Magic vlog. I'm not sure if that vlog will be up by the time you've seen this. Hopefully it will. But this is a story, it's an Afrofuturistic story about two siblings, one who has the power to crumble buildings with her hands. She can fly, she can manipulate the weather. She's incredibly powerful, but she's powerless when her brother gets arrested and incarcerated and placed into prison. And the book is about what it means to be an incredibly powerful woman, but be absolutely powerless to help somebody that you love. It is deeply, deeply embedded with the history of African and African American culture, vernacular references, and it's going to be very difficult to read this book if you are not reading it from a Black lens, and if you are not very familiar with Black history. I think a lot of it is going to kind of get missed, and so if you are not really familiar with those things, I highly recommend that you look up interviews and really detailed own voices reviews to help you understand this story, because even me reading it from the lens of somebody who knows Black history quite well and who is Black, I still know that I missed a lot, and I know that I need to go back and reread this book already. And even knowing that, I still gave it 5 stars because Tochi Onyebuchi,
he wrote his ass off in this.
it was absolutely incredible. The way that he narrated the story, his word placement, it was precise, it was brilliant, it was meaningful. Symbolism is rife with this book. It was just so intelligently written. And also, he did one of my favorite things in this book, which is use science fiction as a way of predicting future social events, which is what science fiction was originally designed to do, and also engaging in incredibly critical and harsh social commentary. A lot of the original sci-fi greats, the dead old white guys that we love so much, H.G. Wells, even Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, Isaac Asimov, use science fiction as a way to kind of comment on society's flaws and issues, but they also made predictions of the things that society would deal with in the future because of those flaws and issues. And what's wild is that those men were wildly accurate in their prediction. And I honestly think that some of the predictions that Tochi makes are very likely to come true. That's what makes this book so scary, is because you can see the logical progression to the things that he is kind of prognosticating in this book. It was wildly brilliant. And I know that this book is going to be hailed as a classic. I think it's going to be one of those books that doesn't get celebrated in its time, that gets misunderstood and underrated and written off, to be honest. But I think over time, people are going to look at and analyze and dissect this book and be blown away. Question number 6 is Pose, a Black LGBTQIA plus character. And for this, I am picking Jam from Pet. Jam is a trans girl, and she is my whole heart. I also want to pick the stars and the blackness between them because this is a sapphic romance, and the romance in this book was my whole freaking heart. It was so good. It was so heartwarming and believable and realistic and slow and measured and passionate, and it just captured my entire soul. And I'm not really big on romance, but I really felt the love between these two girls. I love Pet. I love Jam as a person. She's indecisive, but she's also determined. She's flawed and she's growing. And this book is all about her realizing that the utopia that she lives in is actually a dystopia, and realizing that people who are there to protect her potentially are not, and that there's a lot of buried history and hidden truths. I really love the you realize that your utopia is not what it seems trope. She accidentally brings a creature to life that kind of takes her on a journey. A journey with a mythical or animal guide is again one of my favorite tropes. I don't want to say too much about this book because I talk about it at length in my Black Girl Magic's Team Science Fiction Fantasy vlog, but I'm just gonna say Akwaeke Emezi can write their ass off, and I'm so excited for their latest book that comes out later this year in August. And question number 7 is My Kitchen, a book covering Black mental health or disability. And if you understand the My Kitchen reference, comment down below and let me know what you think it means. All of these questions are named after very specific references in Black culture and Black vernacular, with the exception of Mirror Image. For this challenge, I am picking Let's Go Swimming on Doomsday by Natalie C. Anderson. I'm picking this because the main character, Abdi, has PTSD and also has a physical disability that he got as a result of a bomb being detonated. His feelings about both of his disabilities are very well explored and depicted with a lot of empathy. This, of course, is a book that I've talked about quite a bit. It's about a young boy who is forced to become a child soldier, and he does this because his family is being threatened at gunpoint. And so he's kind of trying to decide between his value of not being a child soldier and wanting to see his family survive, which unfortunately is a position that a lot of people are put in. It was one of my favorite reads of 2018, but it's not Own Voices, and I'm really looking hard for an Own Voices book that deals with Somali folks in war, especially a fictional book. So if you know of any fictional Somali stories, especially those that are geared towards young adults, please let me know because I'd absolutely love to read them. The Stars and the Blackness Between Them also has physical disability rep and some mental health rep as well. Pet has representation for use of sign language and mutism. All right, y'all, that is gonna do it for this video. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would absolutely love it if you became a part of my Dapper family. All of my social media links are in the description box below, and I can't wait to see you in my next one.